Going into a conversation, I have three gentlemen joining me in studio. A number of issues to discuss. Hopefully we're able to do justice to them within the time allotted us. But let me quickly introduce them. Michael Kosi is here with us. He is an engineer. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good to have you. Good to have you. Hamza Suini is a member of the NDC's communications team. He's also a lawyer. Good morning, Hamza.
Good morning, my brother.
Good to have you. And then we have Dennis Miracles Abuaje, Director of Communications for the Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia 2024 campaign team. Good morning, Dennis.
Good morning, bro.
Good to have you. Good to have you. Good to have you. All right. Hamza, were you at the conference?
Unfortunately, no. I was on another assignment somewhere,
Very
largely because of the expectations of my political party. So I couldn't attend, unfortunately. But, my brother, well, I will not jump the gun.
You know where I'm heading to with that question, right?
Yes, I will not jump the gun, except to say that I was not there.
Very well.
And hopefully the next one, I would be more than willing to participate.
Well, I mean, so let's start from there, and I'll start with you on the necessity of the call and whether the president will heed or otherwise. And if he should heed, will he be breaching any constitutional provision?
Good morning to my colleagues in the studio, and of course to our cherished viewers out there. Whether the president will heed, I do not think that the president will heed. But even before I go there, permit me to bring your attention to the fact that there are so many things happening in the country prior to even these processes to impeach the, or if you like, suspend the Chief Justice, and probably that may lead to his to her eventual removal, or if you like, reinstatement. Look, we have been in government for barely 3-4 months now, less than the 120 days we promised that we are going to do certain things. And if you look at the steps of this particular government, in less than 120 days, like we promised, we've been able to reduce the number of ministers drastically. Today, we have not been able to hit the 60 ministers mark. We are still around 56. His Excellency the President, again, promised to take away the betting tax. As we speak, the betting tax is gone. E-levy is gone. Emissions levy is gone. On top of that, and these are things happening in less than 120 days. On top of that, His Excellency the President has launched what we call the Jumawura program, intended to provide startup for many of our compatriots out there, especially the youth, who have beautiful business ideas and may not have the necessary financial capital to get it going. He has also launched, just yesterday, the Ghana Medical Trust Fund, otherwise known as the Mahama Care, intended to provide a financial cushion for many of our citizens suffering from difficult ailments like kidney, and that of diabetes and stuff like that. On top of that, today, interestingly, His Excellency the President will be launching the National Apprenticeship Program, intended to equip young people out there, many of our unemployed compatriots out there, with the necessary
funding for all these.
There's funding. It has been provided for in the budget, and we are confident that we'll be able to see it through. Intended to empower young people out there to at least learn specific skills. And even in the process of learning that skills, as part of the program objectives, they will be given the necessary financial support to commit to and fro from these places. And when they are done, government will be playing a crucial role in setting them up. His Excellency the President has also reduced the cost of Hajj fare. Remember, it was around 72,000 Ghana cedis under a so-called Muslim vice president. Today, it is in the region of about 65,000 Ghana cedis. Another promise fulfilled. So a lot has happened in less than 120 days. But being a responsible government, as we are, a responsible one for that matter, we know that these interventions are not enough to alleviate the problems of the Ghanaian people. We know many of our people out there are still unemployed. Many have completed school for over 2, 3, 5 years searching for jobs. They have not been able to find these jobs. I'm assuring them, based on the steps being taken so far, that this is a government that will be more than willing to provide the necessary economic drive to ensure that jobs are created in the not too distant future to be able to accommodate their aspirations.
Can we get back on track?
But in the midst of all that, we'll get back on track. But in the midst of all that, you need to remember that our opponents are unfortunately engaged in all manner of things that are democratically unacceptable. On my way here, I heard that one of them was stabbed yesterday, and an unfortunate incident that also reflects the level of incompetence that has characterized the New Patriotic Party over the last 8 years. And it seems that is not going to stop. Losing life is an important issue, my brother. Well, I'll get to the CJ issue. It is an important issue, but so there's the need for us to caution them that this democracy is not for the NPP alone. They must learn from the actions of the National Democratic Congress and other political parties and begin to change and protect lives and properties of their supporters. It's important because these people are citizens of Ghana and we must be interested in their safety, irrespective of your political differences. Now, having said that, let me go to the substantive issue as to whether the president will respond or not. I am convinced that the president will not glorify the Ghana Bar Association with any response. But you see, what are the issues? Not long ago, I think 5 days ago, the Ghana Bar Association issued a statement, and permit me to read. In the statement, they said, while the Ghana Bar recognizes the constitutional prescription for the removal of the Chief Justice under Article 1466 to 10 of the Constitution, and mindful of the fact that presently the entire matter is sub judice, it is the hope and belief of the GBA that actors involved in the whole process would have the time-tested tenets of the rule of law as their guiding principle, and in its application follow the spirit of the law. In less than 48 hours, they have gone under the guise of a resolution to more or less betray the very caution that they exercised in their earlier statement and caution sent to the people of this country. What happened? The only explanation behind such a U-turn is clearly partisan.
It's not law?
It is not law, and I'll demonstrate to you on this table why it is not law.
You are sure it's not law?
It is not law. The only reasoning behind such a quick U-turn by the Ghana Bar Association is politics. And I'll demonstrate to you. You see, His Excellency the President has acted in line with the constitutional dictates of Article 146. Whatever decision he has taken, ranging from the receiving of the petition, the forwarding of same to the Council of State and the suspended Chief Justice, and the eventual establishment of a prima facie case, are acts prescribed for under the 1992 Constitution, specifically Article 146. Today, if you look at Article 146.10, that empowers His Excellency the President to exercise a discretion on the advice of the Council of State to suspend the Chief Justice. That was followed. Undoubtedly, it is an exercise of a discretion. But if the GBA...
Is this discretionary power in its exercise bounded by 294?
To a very large extent, and I'll explain, maybe the GBA once again has misinterpreted the provisions of Article 296C in particular. First of all, in a number of cases, plethora of them, the Supreme Court has stated, and the classical one is Ransford France versus Electoral Commission. Indeed, they were the very people who took that case to court, the NPP, I make reference to here. And it was decided in that case that when it comes to the exercise of discretionary power, there are two pillars. We have administrative or executive exercise of discretionary power and exercising discretionary power in a quasi-judicial form. So it decided that when it comes to administrative exercise or executive exercise of discretionary power, it does not have to follow the principles as laid down in Article 296 Clause C of the 1992 Constitution. Because Dr. Dacheba used the word that if we are to follow it, then it would lead to a meltdown in our country, our democratic processes. Meltdown, emphasis. But if you are dealing with a quasi-judicial body, 296 will be relevant in that regard. But here, we are dealing with an executive exercise of discretionary power. It is the formation of the committee, the eventual establishment of the committee. It is the committee that has the cloak of a quasi-judicial body. So when the committee intends to exercise a discretion, then they fall strictly under Article 296. Yeah. What the president is engaged now has nothing to do with adjudication of the matter. It is simply a process laid down in our constitution. And the president is following these processes.
The GBA argues that the president is not a judge and so should have published the rules before the suspension of the CJ.
But that is the point. That is why I'm telling you that the Article 296 simply says that if you are not a judge and blessed with a discretionary power to exercise, you should do so in line with Article 296. Yeah. And I have told you that a number of cases has expanded the frontiers of Article 296. Right. And I made reference to Ransford France versus the Electoral Commission. Clearly, they have indicated that even if you are not a judge, there are two ways that the exercise comes in your administrative or executive decisions, or adjudicating, if you are adjudicating a matter. In this particular instance, when it falls under administrative and executive decisions, it says that you need not follow Article 296. Right. Let's not get that wrong. And you see, permit me to read excerpts from that particular judgment I'm making reference to, so that we can put this thing in proper perspective.
That's a Ransford France versus EC.
Yes. So this is what the court had to say. It says, protecting the scope of Article 296C by purposive interpretation is not equivalent to removing due process from the exercise of discretionary power. Article 296A and B contain the standards for the application of such due process. These two clauses of Article 296, in conjunction with Article 23, assure the residents in Ghana fairness and impartiality in administrative processes. Limiting the scope of the obligation to publish regulations before the exercise of discretionary power does not, and this is instrumental, does not significantly impair due process in administrative matters in Ghana. Rather, it avoids the unraveling of the system of government as we have known it since 1969. The standard embodied in Article 296C may well offer desirable benchmark for good practice, and I commend it to those who exercise discretion to adhere to it whenever practicable. But non-compliance with it should not be treated as resulting in invalidity for the reasons already explained above. So I ask myself, is it that the GBA is not privy to these decided cases of our apex court? And that is why I'm telling you that what they did had nothing to do with the law. On top of that illegality that they are trying to invite the president to engage in, they also proceeded to allege or to demand that His Excellency President Mahama should make public the establishment of the prima facie case. You see, that is another problematic invitation to His Excellency President Mahama to engage in an illegality. And I'll demonstrate why. Under Clause 8, Article 146 of the 1992 Constitution, it prohibits publicizing the petitions and the processes as far as the petition is concerned. Today, if the president is being challenged or invited by the GBA to make public the prima facie case, that clearly would be an affront to Clause 8 of Article 146 that demands
that all hearings or proceedings shall be held in camera.
So sometimes when I listened to them yesterday and I read their resolution, I was like, what the heck is happening in this country? Is that what politics can do to institutions like the Ghana Bar Association? That they can change their stance in a matter of 48 hours and not just change their stance, but proceed on the basis of such a problematic change to invite His Excellency the President to engage in an illegality. So these are the kind of problems we have in the country. Well, and to finally, you see, we are at a stage where we know as a government that we are accountable to the good people of this country. And we do everything within our power to ensure strict compliance when it comes to the principles of accountability, and most importantly, fidelity to the principles of our Constitution. But we will not entertain any partisan-driven motive intended to stampede His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama or the National Democratic Congress to engage in acts that clearly subverts the 1992 Constitution.
Right.
And Mrs. Joe Gatti, that is the wife of Joe Gatti, who happens to be the president of the GBA, must tread cautiously. Because, you see, you may have appeared on NPP platforms in the past with your husband. But when it comes to our democratic principles and fidelity to the 1992 Constitution, we must strive to go beyond partisan lenses.
Very well. Thank you.
And do things in the interest and spirit of the 1992
Thank
Constitution.
You, Dennis. You think that GBA is now finding his voice conveniently?
I mean, of course. Council has sent me an unsolicited invitation, so I have to deal with the invitation. You know, it's almost as if the NDC do not realize their current position. They don't seem to have transited from opposition to government, and I understand it may take a while. They still need some time to shake the opposition off, and so I hear them speak, and I can still see traits of an opposition party. And I think that we should just give them a little bit of time. They will get there. Then they would realize the enormity of the responsibility that is currently on their shoulders, and realize that governance is a serious business, and that you cannot toy with it. And that if you fail to take up that responsibility and do it right, time will catch up with you. I mean, Council City and attempt to enumerate what they have done so much, and all I hear is launch. It's fair. I mean, 120 days. Except that they had a specific social contract with us. And that social contract, as I have it, specific events that they promise in launch is stated. So some of them, they will say, we will launch. It means that within that 120, that's what they will do. Others, they specifically indicated what they will do with specific KPIs in there. I think we would wait for the 120 days. Then we'll do a proper assessment of that 120 days.
Thank you for that.
He should slow down. Because, I mean, if we were to go into those things, we'll talk about a government that has completely failed on a lot of things they said in opposition.
So let's not go there.
No,
we'll change our discussion.
We'll touch on a few, of course.
I will accept the invitation.
Well, you sent out the invitation in the first place.
You promised the people of this country that immediately you come into office. In fact, some of your ministers, cabinet ministers, said any president who is worth his salt should end Galamsey in 2 weeks. The Minister for Communication said it. The president himself said that it is because the president at the time and government at the time were complicit in Galamsey issue. That is why it's unable to solve it. And you made specific promises. You said, one, you're going to repeal the LI that allows mining in forest reserve. That was quite specific, repeal. And then you speak of the fact that you back civil society organizations and unions who were calling for a state of emergency. And then you promise the people that when you come, you're not going to go after the Galamsey boys in the pit, and that you're going to go after the kingpins. You failed on almost all of these things. 120 days. These are things you don't even need 2 hours to do. State of emergency, write a 1 paragraph, memo and take to Parliament. Repeal, you have over 188 or so, MPs. So, I mean, you come to office, you repeal e-levy, which is 1%, which is by choice. Not every Ghanaian is going to pay it anyway by compulsion if you choose not to send money via Momo. 1%. And then you impose on us 14% utility hike. 14%. How do we clap for you for this? You go to the cocoa farmers. 3-4 months ago, you were screaming on top of your voices, telling the cocoa farmers that the government then has shortchanged them. And that you think that the actual cocoa price per the current world cocoa price should be 6,000 for the farmers. 4 months down the line, you are moving from cocoa farm to cocoa farm with your executive chair and telling them all the problems are cocoa board, for which reason you cannot give it to them. We'll get there. But
let's move on.
We'll get there. So he should hasten slowly. He should take his time. We've seen a lot of these before, and so he should take his time and at the right time would digest some of these issues. Cement price is almost 45 cedis increased as we speak. And you are touting
Let's make progress. Let's deal with the CJ and GBA issue.
He also speaks about some misinformation, in fact he put it out, on some stabbing to death of somebody at NPP. Thank you.
I don't think he added to death.
No, he said people are losing their lives. That's what he said.
He said the loss of life.
Yeah, but nobody has lost his life. Nobody has. I just want to put that on record. Right. Nobody has lost. I think yesterday there was some misunderstanding among some Unity Hall students who apparently came to the venue, and then when they were leaving, one businessman gave them some money to share, and in the distribution of that money there was some confusion amongst the students, and that unfortunate incident happened. So currently we're even checking up on the gentleman. He's doing fine, and we thank God for that. I think it's important that we do not let these things escalate to this level. Now to the substantive matter. So anybody the NDC disagrees with would be threatened. That's the NDC's modus operandi. It's as if for the NDC, you either align and think like them, or you don't know anything, and then they are right. And then they have a certain template they apply to everybody. So if you see what the NDC is doing to the GBA right now, it's no different from what the NDC is doing to the Chief Justice. They will give you a name, tag you, and use that as a basis to attack you and call you all manner of names. What has the GBA done here? I'm not a lawyer, but I follow the GBA. I saw the GBA statement 5 days ago. The one from the governing council, which is not like the entirety of the GBA. I saw it 5 days ago. And let me tell you one interesting thing. Immediately the GBA released that statement. You know what the NDC did? Almost every NDC person all of a sudden said, finally, GBA, there's some reasonability in GBA. Finally, GBA is doing the right thing. Almost all of them. The Minister of State for Government Communications, Felix, I'll just pick only him. This GBA statement is a marked departure from their traditionally hostile stance towards NDC government. The GBA, like others, have yet to demonstrate any constitutional infraction on the part of the President and the Council of State in the CJ matter. Then he gleefully shared the statement from GBA on his Facebook wall. And you should go and see the comments by the NDC guys under his post. Finally, Abayin Papaba, democracy is thriving, freedom is here. Beautiful. You never heard any NPP person go on an attack on the GBA. You never heard any NPP person go and say, GBA, why are you siding with them? Why are you there? And calling them all manner of names. There was no NPP inclined lawyer that came to say, GBA, because you've said something or written something that seemed to align with government's position, we are no longer GBA members and you are a crook, a group of whatever. We never heard that. Then out of nowhere, was it yesterday or 2 days ago, the GBA go for their mid-year conference. Then the conference that has its rules and regulations as to how decisions are taken. Just as decisions are taken in Parliament and not everybody supports, but we all agree that Parliament has decided based on maybe 2/3 or 1/3 according to the standing order. The GBA, the body that council is a member of, goes to take a decision. That decision is based on how GBA takes their decision. Then they pass a resolution with specific concerns and admonition or counsel to the President on the issue of the Chief Justice. Then all of a sudden, the NDC that 5 days ago were all over the place praising the GBA and telling them that finally you are saying something to support the NDC. Finally, there is freedom. Finally, there is democracy. All of a sudden, the NDC are now calling the GBA names to the extent that now, simply because this particular resolution, which is passed by the bigger group of GBA, which is not only Jogate's wife as president, okay, the bigger group of GBA is now NPP, and that it's partisan, and that it's political, because they disagree with you. And now you are throwing threats to them. Isn't it the same model or template that the NDC are using to deal with the Chief Justice? You recall that in Ho, when the NDC lawyers met, the president today stood in front of them and said that the only way the judiciary can be fixed is with the new Chief Justice. And that when he becomes president, he's going to balance the bench. And that in his opinion, the bench is actually skewed towards the NPP. then the president. Now the opposition leader then wins power. Then when he wins power, the first 100 days, what he sought to do is remove the Chief Justice on frivolous, fictitious, criminally minded petitions with reasons like, one, why are you sanctioning your own staff at the judiciary? It's one of the issues in the petitions. Two, why did you travel with your husband and wife
and child
at the at the expense of the judiciary? It's part of the petition. Three, why did you scream and shout at a lawyer in court? Four, you sat on the decision with a set of justices on an issue brought by the minority, which we felt that your conduct was wrong. These are the reasons, critically, key reasons. These are the key reasons.
And they don't meet the threshold of
these are
petition.
the key. No, hold on. No, don't worry about meeting the threshold. But these are the key reasons. It's important because see, as we have all this discourse, one of the things they sought to do, the government sought to do until there were leakages, was to try to shield even these petitions because they knew that these petitions were fictitious. They didn't make sense. The president travels with his wife, travels with his son at the expense of the state.
The conditions of service at the executive
hold on. The Chief Justice has responded with what she has as her conditions of service, and they sit rightly in at the right whatever in terms of her conditions of service. The Chief Justice who controls the judiciary, that has nothing to do with the executive. How can you, the Chief Justice, take a decision on your staff, then the executive, another independent arm, completely independent arm, comes to you and say, why are you sanctioning your staff? And it's in a petition. It is one of the issues on the petition. But let me even put those substantive matters, because those will be dealt with at the committee level, and come back to the GBA. Why should you call the GBA names? At best, disagree with them. At best, disagree with them. Indeed, I don't think that the GBA also in their decision making or even in their knowledge or wisdom knows everything. Because they are also made up of lawyers.
Exactly.
Lawyers disagree, even in the same chamber. Before they prepare to go to court, they will discuss several options and they will disagree. So they may be wrong. But they have also tabled to you what they believe is their view. I don't think the NDC that is being paid by the taxpayer, that is supposed to be leading the charge in the development of this country, including protecting our democracy, should be speaking to the GBA in such arrogant manner. What is their crime? They disagree with you.
Are the demands by the GBA tenable?
You can choose not to cede to them. That's my position. You can choose not to cede to them. Because ultimately, the GBA and other lawyers or other citizens can also decide to go and test these issues in court.
Right.
For me, in this country, like we say, the law is in the bosom of the judge.
Exactly.
So we can always disagree on these things so long as a judge has not ruled on it. But these are the views of the GBA. Why are you calling them names? For Christ's sake, whoever is the president, the general secretary, the leadership of the GBA were voted for by you lawyers. Give them some respect. The same way you gave them that respect 5 days ago. Don't drag down the association that you are part of simply because they've taken a decision that you are rather being partisan. The only reason why you are speaking this way is because they have taken a decision or they've passed a resolution that you think goes against a political party. I don't think the GBA is as partisan as you are being.
Could the GBA have waited for this conference to pass a resolution before bringing out that earlier statement?
But if you look at
that sort to support what
the earlier statement doesn't contradict this. The earlier statement basically said that we have taken notice. It's there. We have taken notice of what has been going on and all of that. Our view is that the processes should be transparent and accountable and all. That was a summary of the earlier statement. The earlier statement did not seek to even go into the substantive matter.
So could they have just waited?
How does the earlier statement contradict this? Just tell me the connection, if you're able to establish that.
But could they have waited to go for the conference to pass the resolution with the larger body?
That question is coming in only when there is a thought that the earlier statement or the current statement contradicts the earlier one. If you're able to establish that, they will say, oh, then maybe you should have waited. You understand what I'm saying? But that's notwithstanding. This is an association that's expressing its views. Why are you attacking them? It is your inconsistencies that is being exposed. It is your sheer partisanship over the progress of this country that is being exposed. The fact that you premeditated the removal of the Chief Justice before you came to office. The fact that immediately you came to office, you have sought to go after the Chief Justice and the Electoral Commissioner. That is what is being exposed right now.
I haven't heard about any move.
Don't worry. Let me put it on record here. That will be the next thing after this one. And I have told you, and I have put it on record that I don't care. Honestly speaking, I don't care. The reason why I don't care is that if that is the precedent you want to set it. You will not be in government forever.
So you come and do same?
Oh, why not? But if you know presidents,
then how does that help our democracy?
you know presidents can be law. You are aware that presidents sometimes can be law. This has never happened before. We've never had this situation before. In fact, the very few times we've had the judiciary being shaken in this country is by the same government, the same party, the same NDC. In 1982, hold on. In 1982,
I need you to learn so we
in
can hear from,
1982, when our judiciary was scaffolded in this manner, people died. And we are even fortunate that this time, the Chief Justice should thank God, that this time this party they haven't put a gun to her head. Because in 1982, they went to Justice Cecilia Cranton's home in my constituency, brought her out at a time when she had a baby that she was breastfeeding and shot her to death. To date, we don't know what happened to her under their government. And so it is the same party, the same model.
But you just described what happened to
they seem to have, but if they never took responsibility. They never took responsibility. But you see, they seem to have a certain sheer hatred for the judiciary if you look at their history. I don't think that the way they are going is right. But it's up to them.
Very well.
Eventually, when time catches up with them and they realize what time it is and the position they are in now, and realize that they are no longer in opposition, but now they hold a fiduciary relationship with the people and must make sure that they do what is right and not speak arrogantly and water down and brush everybody in this country. When that time comes, we'll be here to discuss that.
Very well. Thank you, Dennis. Kosi, let's hear from you on this matter of the GBA versus the suspension of the CJ.
Okay. Thank you very much. First, I would want us to look at what GBA is about. And the GBA is a professional body,
right?
Basically formed to protect the practice of law and its members in this country. So I would like to ask a few questions about, does this statement from GBA reflect what GBA stands for as a professional body? And for all professional bodies in this country, we need to ensure that we are doing what we say we will do within our constitution to protect the practice of that profession and to be consistent with that position. So, over the years, GBA has defended or advocated for a number of things in public space, which have been very good. Others, they have not been able to show consistency. Because only a few years ago, the GBA said we will not make statements on politics or issues within politics. What has changed? Have they issued another statement to say, no, we are now going to deal with issues of politics? So the NDC or other people also have a strong case to say, look, the GBA is not being consistent. So for us as professional bodies, I think that the only thing we can do to safeguard our practice, especially as associations, and to show consistent, is to be consistent with what we say and what we do. Other than that, then we begin to mar the association to the public in terms of what it's supposed to do. So if I look at the statement that came out of the conference, there were 5 issues on which the conference spoke. They talked about the withdrawal of directives on assignment and fixing to the acting Chief Justice.
Justice Paul Bafubani.
Exactly. Then the next one was about the suspension of the current CJ. Then they spoke about Galamsey, and then the Bawku conflict and Ablekuma. Now, if you look at the first one, that is about the practice. They think that it's an opinion. Basically, it is nothing in law. But they say, look, the acting Chief Justice should act in a way that deploys technology to ensure that justice can be better delivered, which is about the practice. That is fair. But if you look at the next one about the CJ, they reference law in terms of Article 296. Now, the beauty about law is that they will debate it. They would argue it and settle it if it goes to court. But unfortunately, it is not in court. I don't know if it's in court or anything like that. But clearly, that is a fair position. If you look at the other 3, they are more of social. 2 are social, Galamsey, and then the Bawku conflict, which is fair because as a professional body, you live within a certain context. You live in a country. So if there are things that you think are not going well, it is good to exercise, make a statement on that. On the issue of Ablekuma, it's more political. So again, people ask, what did the GBA say when it happened to SAR a few years ago? Those are questions that people will fairly ask. So these are the consistent issues that every professional body must seek to do to ensure that people can make a fair judgment about what it is doing and what it is not doing. So those, for me, are the things that we need to look at broadly and say GBA, other professional bodies shouldn't just be GBA, should be looking at what they do. The issues of corruption that have happened in this country, for instance, what has the Institute of Chartered Accountants said about it? When Woyome went to take money, what happened? There were professionals involved in that practice. In terms of lawyers, as for the lawyer who was involved, clearly the council has taken a decision debarring. But what about the accountants and other people involved in that process? What has the Institute of Chartered Accountants said about it? What have other professional bodies done or not done consciously that have affected this country? What have professionals said about it? So for me, my concern is largely about how professional bodies act consistently to ensure that the practice is protected within this jurisdiction. If we don't do that as professional bodies, then we are not being fair to the nation, not just on issues of politics, but naturally to the nation that we come from. Because our practice is not just about us, but it's about how it impacts the larger society. So for me, these are the things I would want to say about the statement that has come out from the GBA. As for the legal issues, they can go there and debate it, but we need, as professional bodies, to act properly so that the people in this country will see that we are serving them properly. Those are my own comments.
Hamza, back to you on this matter. Are you just attacking, or you could just disagree and move on? And let's see what comes out of the committee. Committee's work.
I have always argued that when it comes to the politics of the NPP, you need to be a keen follower of our democratic process to understand that we are dealing with a political party that is not only a problem to our conscience in government, but even in opposition. And that is why we are where we are. Today, my brother made reference to the issue of Galamsey. There's a marked departure when you compare the two governments in the past. We had their own Ashanti regional chairman engaged in Galamsey, protected under the cloak of the presidency. Their mayor, Sam Pine, deeply involved in Galamsey. Many other government appointees, including the Wasa East DC. Indeed, the current MP for Joabong.
You have evidence to this?
Yes,
so why haven't they been picked up
but
already?
you wait. That is why I'm making the submission. The current MP for Joabong was tagged as an influence peddler who was securing questionable licenses for other companies.
Hamza, you see my problem with you politicians.
You can check it out on the 4th Estate investigations. It is there. It has not been contested. I'm not the one showing it out.
Have you looked into it?
Why I'll get there. If you are patient, are you going to allow me to make my presentation? I'm not someone who will leave the ground and cover. Please. It is. Are you going to allow me to make my submission?
Very well, carry on.
You see, these are that is the record they left us. So when you hear the MPP pushing, declare a state of emergency, some of your people promised that when you are given power, you declare a state of emergency. It is because they know now that a declaration of state of emergency by His Excellency the President would obscure the illegalities most of them were engaged in. It is part of a strategy of this government to ensure that we bring the actual culprits to book, not just those we find in the pits. And a declaration of state of emergency would not have led to the discovery of the unethical conduct of Wuntimi. So we immediately they started demanding it. We knew, knowing them as a political party, we knew the motive.
But
we
in
knew
opposition,
that
you found it convenient. You were demanding.
No, you see, we are not demanding it. At the time that they were in power, it was important for them to have declared it. And civil society called for that declaration. Possibly, if we were in charge then, nothing would have prevented us from ensuring such a declaration. We have come into power. We have assessed the situation. We get to realize that their push for a declaration of state of emergency is simply intended to help bury their wrongs. We decided not to go ahead with it. That's how come it has led to the discovery of Wuntimi and his unethical conduct. So this government will not be stampeded by them. I can assure them. When we get to a stage that it is important for us to declare a state of emergency, we'll do so. And he's talking about a repeal, a law that they presided over. When Parliament resumes, we are repealing LI 2462.
Thank
That
you.
is a promise that was made, and
Let's
this government is
deal with the
committed
CJ
to it.
matter.
Now, coming back to the CJ, you see, I can forgive my brother when it comes to the legalities of the issue. That's why he was dancing around and decided to be making inroads or attempting to make inroads using the political machinations of space. So he's forgiven. He has no iota of appreciation when it comes to our constitutional principles and our democratic principles. And I'll explain why. You see, he sits around this table making references to a Facebook post of Felix of Osukwachi. Have you read the post? It was not in any way agreeing with the content even of the first statement that was issued. Felix sought to only commend them, and that is what good governance is about.
But would you comment something you do not agree with?
Wait. That is why you have to read the entire statement. You want me to read it for you?
Let's go on. Let's progress.
Felix only commended them and proceeded to say that even the GBA has failed to point out any constitutional infraction in the first statement. That is responsible governance. And I remember when I started my presentation, I made the point that, look, they are forgiven to do whatever they want to do and to take any stance they take. But I believe, as a matter of opinion, that whatever the subsequent U-turn of the GBA is grounded in partisanship. Mind you, I'm a member of the GBA. Criticizing the conduct of the organization, I am clothed with that legal right to do so and democratic right to do so. And criticizing them is not the same as an attack. Possibly because over the years, what my brother was good at doing was simply attacking. And possibly that earned him the unfortunate attack of being arrogant. So he feels today that if anybody is criticizing a state institution, you are doing so arrogantly. They just apologized not long ago about their arrogant disposition and utterances in government. And many of his compatriots actually hold his likes responsible for that arrogant posture. So I can understand the laboring, trying to shake off that tack and putting it on other people. Possibly, if he's patient enough, he would learn the art of communication when it comes to the National Democratic Congress, because we know, as a social democrat, that any iota of disrespect to the masses out there would lead to our eventual annihilation, and we are not ready to take that risk. Now, coming back to the issue on the table, you see, we are talking law. It is not politics. And I've always argued that that is one of the fundamental problems facing this country, especially when it comes to political communicators. We feel that we are clothed with the authority to comment on any issue, even if we are challenged. And that is what my brother has demonstrated on this table. The constitutional provisions are clear. Under Article 146, there's a process prescribed for the president to follow. If you have any concerns about that process, nothing bars you from taking advantage of the courts. The GBA itself is not precluded from going to court to challenge the actions of His Excellency the President. And I have demonstrated to you that when it comes to the exercise of discretion and their demand for the prima facie finding to be made public, constitute a subversive invitation to His Excellency the President to subvert our constitutional provisions.
Does the Constitution speak to the establishment of the prima facie case or the work of the committee that will be set up after? Just for education purposes.
The Constitution speaks to both. The Constitution talks about the establishment of a prima facie in consultation with the Council of State. Then the Constitution also speaks about the establishment of the committee and also the exercise of the discretion under Clause 10, Article 146 of the 1992 Constitution. So clearly it speaks to both. And that is why I'm telling you that they are clothed with the legal right and democratic right to challenge these decisions in the law courts. And if I say so, it is an assessment of the posture of the GBA. Secondly, he made references to the fact that the president had a premeditated intention to take them out of office, or the CJ out of office. Around this table, I've had cause to explain to you that even when President Mahama was first elected in 2012, and eventually sworn in 2013, we had petitions filed by retired Supreme Court judges against the then Chief Justice, Georgina Woods, who was appointed by the NPP administration, President Kufuor specifically. President Mahama looked at the content of those petitions and decided not to proceed with it. He exercised his discretion in consultation with the Council of State. They came to the conclusion that a prima facie case had not been instituted. The same President Mahama he's making reference to, when he was sworn in as president in 2013, they and leading members of his political party filed petitions against Loretta Lamte, Shraj, who was an appointee of His Excellency President Mahama, and raised issues. President Mahama, being a decent gentleman and a man committed to our constitutional dictates, received the petition, proceeded to forward same to the Chief Justice. A prima facie determination was made. A committee was subsequently formed, and the recommendations of the committee was to the effect that Mrs. Loretta Lamte be made to resign. President Mahama acted on the recommendations of the committee and sacked Mrs. Loretta Lamte, his own appointee. That is the man we are talking about. So be rest assured that if today President Mahama has seen the need to act based on a number of petitions that he has received against the suspended Chief Justice, this is a man who would do so without privileging his partisan interests beyond that of our constitutional objective.
Right.
Unlike them, when they started the impeachment of Charlotte Osei, they did not listen to good counsel. We cautioned that anybody playing with the Electoral Commission of our country was simply subjecting our democracy to ruins. I have argued, and I will continue to argue, that the Electoral Commission constitutes the trunk of our democracy. If you are talking about the arms of government, that is the trunk. If you have a tree, you know the trunk of a tree. If you compromise your Electoral Commission, it is like cutting the trunk. And if you cut the trunk, the branches cannot stand.
Right. Very well.
You proceeded not to remove only the Electoral Commissioner, but 2 deputies and replace him with partisan operatives. So were you acting in the interest of the nation or that of the New Patriotic Party? These are your records.
Right.
Today you should be thankful that we have a president who is sworn and have shown by conduct to be committed to the constitutional dictates. And when we talk about the GBA not being committed to our to its own objectives, remember, not long ago, when Charlotte Osei was being removed, did they ask for the report on the establishment of a prima facie case? Did they? When Loretta Lamte was being removed, did they ask for the prima facie determination report?
And that's the consistency.
So if they do not demonstrate that level of consistency, I am clothed with the authority to question him as a member, especially of the GBA. But I can understand the frustration of my people. Because you see, I now get the sense that whatever decisions they took in government was driven by their partisan and article motive. So to them, you are taking out a leading member of the NPP who was favored with an opportunity to be Chief Justice. Or you are taking out a leading member of the NPP who was favored with an opportunity to be what's the name? Electoral Commissioner. And that is troubling. Since the start of this issue, we cautioned that we must be careful to politicize the issue. They were the first to jump into the fray of politicization. And you see, that is the reason why those of you two in the media, please do us the honors of protecting this democracy. You see, the fact that we are communicators of political parties does not mean that we are clothed with the knowledge to comment on any other issue. If you give the platform to my brother to comment on the processes leading to the removal or suspension of the Chief Justice, of course, he would have no option than to cloud it in partisanship, because that is his talking trade. That is why he's trending. He doesn't have the necessary understanding to appreciate the issues on the ground.
Very well, very well.
And that is what has costed the NDC, NPP all these years.
Very well. Thank you, Hamza. Thank you, Hamza. Dennis.
You know, I want to forgive Hamza and give him some time. I think I realized that he started this whole thing when they came to power. So he's still learning.
Unfortunately, I even started it before you.
Let
me let you know that. I started it before you.
I sat down, allowed you to, you know.
You can go to YouTube and pull out my videos.
Please, you calm down.
Clearly, you don't listen. And you were not monitoring. You were interested in listening to yourself.
Please.
Anyway, proceed.
Dennis, let me just make reference to the Ransford France case. And then, of course, the reasoning that it's not in all instances or in all cases that there should be an establishment of constitutional
instruments. Kindly ask him to calm down. That's what I'm saying. You should give him some time. You should soak it.
Please allow Dennis to
allow him.
Please flow.
I am going to avoid all the unnecessary invitations and deal with the issues. This country is not meant for lawyers, no bankers, no policemen or military people. Our democracy and our constitution gives a right to citizens. Okay. There are lawyers who go to court and lose cases, streak of cases, even though they are lawyers. The fact that you're a lawyer doesn't mean that you even understand the law. You know, you understand? We're discussing common sense and discussing our laws. Those discussions, until they get to the courts and the judges rule, no lawyer is an authority over it. And I think counsel knows that. So he should calm down. Now, he speaks about Galamsey and says that there's a marked departure of what this government is doing in Galamsey from what was done in the past. Again, like I keep saying, he's still learning and probably still trying to understand even what this whole our governance has been doing in the past 20 years, 24 years. What has this government done that is new from what is being done as of January 7, 2025 when they took office? There's not even a single one. Not even one.
Yeah, sure.
Hold on. If I miss one, tell me. This government has sent security services into the forest and is arresting Galamseyers in the pit, seizing excavators, burning some and keeping some. Is that not what they've done? As of 7 January 2025, didn't we have security men in the forest? Your portal, City News Room, reported of people who have been arrested, excavators seized, chamfans burnt.
Operation Halt 1 and 2.
It's been there for 8 years. It's been there for 8 years. So that is not a new thing. This government has launched Blue Guards or River Guards. Now, the same Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, go and check, as of 2022, there's been a river guard in the forest, in the river bodies.
Yeah.
Your reporters are with them. They have boats trying to help with the Galamsey issues in the rivers. So that is the second thing that this government has done, and that is not a new thing.
Very well.
That the same ministry has been doing it over the period. Apart from these things that I have mentioned, what other new thing has this government done in the fight against Galamsey that we haven't seen in this country before, or was not in place at the time they took office? Just one. So you see, that's why I'm saying that let's give them time. Let's give them time. You come and sit on TV, blab, 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 and use words which you cannot even substantiate them back. Then he quickly jumps from there and say, oh, you know, the fact that we have alleged that an NPP person, Chairman to me, is involved in Galamsey, a load is marked. Are you aware that this year, 2025, the Awin Traditional Council sent a petition to the president asking him to sanction the Awin NDC MP for putting together a group of people and sending them into the forest to go and mine? You are aware of that? Your portal reported it. Yeah. Are you aware? He's a certain MP of the NDC.
The speaker has even directed some investigations.
So you see, that's why I keep saying that he would learn along the line. Are you also aware that the NDC chairman for Upper Denture East also accosted the security forces that were in their area to deal with Galamsey, with NDC members, and stopped them on the bridge, almost strangling the military men and asking them to leave the area and not do anything when it comes to Galamsey issues? The news reporters flew a drone on the forest where they are, and we saw the NDC members, that was what the journalists reported, NDC members mining and doing Galamsey and destroying the water bodies. Is he aware of that? Is he aware of that? So, you see, these things, for me, honestly speaking, you know how I react to these things, but I won't react in that manner because I think he's new. He's still learning, and he will get there. And eventually when he gets there, I hope he will learn something out of it and understand that every single individual in this country has a right to comment on any issue whatsoever. And that right, nobody can take away from you. You can be the president, you can't take it away from the citizen. You can be the chief justice, you can't take it away from the citizen. That level of humility is something that he will learn, but with time. Now let's come to the GBA matter. I still insist, I'm not a lawyer. If I want to challenge anything with law, I will hire a lawyer and go to court.
Right.
And the only reason why I would decide to hire a lawyer and go to court is because my common sense would trigger and tell me that there's something wrong with what is going on. So, counsel, what are the laws related to what I am thinking?
Issue. Yeah.
You don't need to be a lawyer to have common sense. And what we are discussing is common sense. The law issues will be dealt in the court. So if you're a lawyer and you think that you understand the law, don't come and sit on TV to talk about it. Go and talk about it in the law court. That's where lawyers are needed. But on TV, we'll discuss the rights of every single Ghanaian, is whether you're a market woman or a taxi driver or a trotro driver, we'll discuss those issues. And then if you strongly feel that you're a lawyer and that there are aspects of law you have to deal with, go to the courts. Why don't come and sit on TV and say that because you're a lawyer, nobody speaks to an issue except you? Who gave you that right? And that because in your mind, we are discussing law.
On issues of law.
Hang on. On issues of law,
brother is irritated. Tell him to calm down.
Stop disrupting.
He's irritated.
Stop disrupting.
Stop disrupting.
You don't say that because we are discussing law, we should leave it to you to discuss it. Go and discuss it in courts if you feel that you are the authority over law. What are we discussing here? The GBA thing is just common sense.
Right.
The common sense is that they also have a right to express their views. Your view on the law and all the articles you quote are not law until it's established in court.
But it's a judgment on the same matter.
It doesn't matter. There are people who take judgment on the same matter to the Supreme Court, and those judgments are overturned. So what are you talking about? What are you talking about? There can be one or two multiple issues with different laws supporting them.
Very well.
You understand what I'm saying? The GBA has done nothing wrong.
Okay.
All they are saying is that, Mr. President, we think that you are erring in this particular instance. And so we are advising that you should do A, B, C, D. You are not going to listen. I have always insisted that the president is not going to listen. This is part of something they had planned before they came to power. He said it with his mouth. He said it. It was premeditated. He said that the judiciary needs to be reset and that this judiciary cannot be reset with the same Chief Justice. And if you make this case and you come to office and within 100 days, you come up with fictitious, senseless reasons to remove the Chief Justice, you are going to be met with such resistance.
Right.
That's notwithstanding.
Hold on for me. Let me take a quick break. I'll come back. I'll give you a minute, and then you wrap up your thoughts on this particular matter. This is Breakfast Daily here on ChannelOne TV. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Grateful that you stayed on with us. This is ChannelOne TV. You're watching Breakfast Daily. We're having a conversation regarding some of the topical issues, of course, that are circulating within the media space, the news cycle. Dennis Miracles Abuaje is here. Hamza Suyini is here. Michael Kosi-Dede is here. Dennis, before we went on the break, you had the floor. I promised you 1 minute and 1 minute only. Okay, wrap up your thoughts on this matter.
I was making the point that the posture of the NDC is completely wrong. They should understand that they are in government. The people have given them a responsibility to steer the affairs of this country. As quickly as possible, they should shake off their opposition, characteristics and be the government that they are supposed to be. It's completely awful, distasteful for a lawyer like Hamza to sit on TV and call the Chief Justice a member of the NPP. That's what he said.
Did I?
He said yes. Maybe you should go and play back what you said.
Yeah,
you did.
Well,
you did. You said that we are worried because they are removing a leading member of the NPP.
But he didn't directly say that the Chief Justice that you talk on is a member.
Bro, you are saying that. What are you doing? What are you people doing on TV?
No, that is.
The lawyer said that the NPP is worried because a leading member of the NPP is being removed as CJ. That's what he said.
No. Those were not him.
So what did he say? No, take my time. What did he say?
He says that the MPP, basically suggesting that you're acting as though a leading member of your party is being removed.
Is that you are interpreting what he said?
Okay, you know what? I don't want to intervene, so I'll be quiet.
When we finish, I'll cut that video and I'll put it on TV for everybody to watch because I listened. Now, it is quite awful for a lawyer to be doing this. I think that the NDC should learn to be a bit more tolerant. The GBA, in my view, have basically expressed their views through a resolution. They are not law. They are not a court. They cannot compel the president to do any of the things they have suggested in their resolution. Instead of attacking them, calling them partisan, saying they are bringing politics into it, you're a member of it, you would go to their meetings, you would take future decisions. Instead of running down the body organization, simply decide not to listen to them. But I keep saying, let's give time, enough time.
Very well. Thank you very much. Because you have a final take on this CJ matter.
Yeah, on this CJ matter, I would want to conclude by saying that this country is in decline. I mean, let's be fair to the people of this country. Over the last 30 years of the Fourth Republic, the country is in decline. And all of us are not happy with the political leadership of this country, the way the political leadership has run this country. Other than that, the people of this country will not be suffering that much.
Sure.
But I think that it is easy for us as citizens to easily point fingers at politicians. I would want professional bodies in this country to begin to look at the larger interest of this country rather than their parochial interests or political interests, because we have played politics with every single thing in this country and absolved professionals from their responsibility to society. So in all of these matters, like I said earlier on, corruption, everything that goes wrong, you would find that at the heart of it are professionals leading and directing the politicians as to how to evade and how to do bad things within the society. I think that professional bodies across this country, engineers, accountants, lawyers, bankers, surveyors, all professionals need to begin to look at themselves in terms of how they practice their ethics and the profession of their practice. Because if we did that collectively and properly, I think that we can hold the politicians in check and stop the decline that we see in this country. So for me, these are the things that I want all professional bodies to seriously consider in terms of how we have acted or not acted in the interest of our state.
Very well, very well. Hamza, the Asante Union 242 the second has begun the mediation process to find a lasting solution to the Bawku conflict. We've seen some processes go on before, they broke down, and now there's a resumption of same. But even before you touch on that, how worrying is this conflict and how important is it that we find a solution to it?
I will decide to use my time judiciously. First of all, by making the point that sometimes it is troubling listening to my younger brother, Miracles. You see, in this business of communication, it doesn't take a day, 2 or 3 days to be an expert in it. When I started communication for my party, I'm sure he was still within the 4 walls of a university, or if you like, he was still learning the art of finding a political godfather. Indeed, fortunately for me, I even served in government as a board member.
Hamza, you are spending the time on
yes, but I'll respond, I'll get
Let's
to it.
deal with the
Don't worry,
Bawku issue. Let's make progress.
I'll get there.
You see, this is the invitation you are throwing at him. And you also come back saying,
it's open, he can accept the invitation.
So let's make progress.
Yes, we'll make
leave
progress.
it at that.
No,
Let's make
but
progress.
I need to respond to something sensitive. You see, my training, even as a government appointee in the past, unlike him, he got the opportunity to be spokesperson to Dr. Bawumia after singing like a parrot on without any.
Let's
no, I'm coming.
Okay, let's tone down on the language.
Okay, I'll take that out. I take that out. You see, communication is about substance. It's not about noise. And so when we do so, we must reflect it in our communication. And that is what those of us in the NDC seek to do. That is why it takes time for those of us who understand the guiding principles of communication to appear on these platforms. Because we know that you just don't have to come and appear on a platform and start speaking for your party. You need to know what you are talking about.
Very well.
And that should guide our communication.
Very well.
And I can forgive him. I served first in government before him. Possibly his first stint in government was being a DC. But I've had that honor in the past before him. But I was meticulous in the way I communicated.
Let's move on to Bawku.
But you see, on the issue of Bawku, interestingly, I have always been careful when it comes to commentary around it. Largely because I am a Northerner in the first place. Secondly, I have friends from both sides of the conflict, Mamprisis and Kusasis. And I believe that, unlike what other people think, I believe that this is a political issue that requires a political solution, like in the case of Dagom. And permit me to, on this platform, say that perhaps the time has come for us to use the Yendi template to see how it can help resolve the Bawku crisis. We are paying so much as a state when it comes to ensuring security in these conflict-ridden areas. And these expenditures makes it impracticable for us to invest in other productive sectors of our economy. And many of us should be ambassadors in terms of preaching peace. And so for me, the referral to the Asantehene by His Excellency the President is something in the right direction, because the Asantehene has demonstrated track record when it comes to the resolution of such matters. You simply cannot discount his instrumental role in the Dagbon crisis and where we are as a people today. So I am confident that that is the way to go, except to also tell my people out there, especially the Mampusis and the Kusasis, that this is a matter that requires understanding. This is a matter that requires us to sit together and listen to each other. We simply cannot resolve the crisis using guns. It cannot be done. We must demonstrate our willingness to go for peace, at least for once. Because many of our young people are dying at the back of that. Women are finding it very difficult to ply their trade. And if you are familiar with the northern regions, many times outside the rainy season, our economies are held afloat by the activities of women. And so if it is becoming practically impossible for women to engage in their daily trade, then clearly the entire nation will be paying for that consequence.
Right.
So we must all be interested. Media men must take an active role in providing education when it comes to these conflicts, and the state must also demonstrate commitment to ensuring that we eventually bring it to an end.
Right.
And I think on this note, that will be my only appeal, because you see, the issue is very sensitive.
Exactly.
And depending on how you open it up, you are likely to even muddy the waters rather than contributing to the solution.
Dennis, time to lay down the guns and allow for a proper discourse to sit at the table and take a decision on the way forward.
Do you want me to take the invitation? No, I think next time when we are coming, you should give us time to bring up political scene. the way you was enumerating his, we come in, and then the bigger your CV, you get the chance to speak. The NDC, like I keep saying, let's give him some time. He would adjust. It's just a matter of time. He will adjust. By September, Council would have found his level in government. He's very excited now.
Unfortunately, I'm not a member of
government. You like disrupting.
No, I'm just telling you that I'm not a member of government.
It's not fair. It's not fair. There were so many things that I could have
Indeed, he actually sits quietly and listens to you.
all the time.
Hamza,
I hear.
I beg you.
I'm an expert in this. I just have to.
Just that, not when it comes to me, unfortunately.
Dennis, please, please flow. You have the floor.
So I'm sure. Let's give him time.
Sure.
September, he should be fine. So it is the same time that I keep using that has caught up with the president when it comes to the Bawku matter. He politicized it. He did. During the campaigning period, when he was not in government, he was in opposition. He didn't know that it was a sensitive matter. He didn't realize that. So he went there, did all manner of politics with it. At some point, even the government of the day was being barred from even coming to some areas in Bawku because of the opposition leaders' utterances. He even went to the extent of saying that anytime the NDC is in power, there is peace in Bawku. It is only when NPP is in power that there is chaos in Bawku, the president. So today when I hear them say, it's a sensitive matter, we should take our time, it is time that has caught up with them. And that's why I keep saying that, let's give them time. Let me read a story from my Enjoy Online for you. So the headline says, Kusog youth disappointed in Mohammed's handling of Bawku matter. Then they went on to say that, Mr. President, you yourself acknowledged that the overlord, Nana Asigri Azoka II, is a legitimate chief of Kusog. And everyone knows that. So what has changed, Mr. President? We never expected that it would take you so long to resolve the Bawku issue after you voted for you in power. Mr. President, when we heard your promise to bring lasting solutions to the Bawku conflict, we were overwhelmed with hope and thought the NDC was our savior. That is why the Kusog gave the NPP 0 and voted massively for the NDC. The group lamented the worsening security situation in the area. I said, Your Excellency, did you know that since you assumed office as president, more than 18 people, including women and children, have been killed in Bawku conflicts? Is that what you intended, Mr. President? Time is what has caught up with the president. And I hope and pray that they will learn from this and ensure that they move away from the posture they've taken and quickly adjust to be a government that the country have voted them into. The president's utterances, the president's posture, the president's body language is what has led to the Bawku conflict escalated within 120 days under their government. the number of death, gruesome death. A mother sleeps at night with her children, and she wakes up and she's already in the land of the dead. They are fired and killed. The IGP himself goes to the place and he's shot at. The escalated nature is because of your words. Because you see, you empowered one side of the conflict. You encouraged one side of the conflict. You showed clear biases when you're in opposition for your political benefit. Because at that time you knew that if you take that posture, the NPP was going to get 0 and you get all the votes. So that is what you did. To the extent that you even at some point promised one group a region. That you create a region for them. So they are expecting it. And so if that is not coming, this is the outcome of it. My prayer is that as they have arrived at Menchia now, they would at least, in the presence of Otumfuo, lay down all their grievances, drop their armor, and give peace a chance. They shouldn't pay too much attention to the politicization that the president and his party have brought to the area. Whether Mamprusi, whether Kusasi, I think that the loss of life is something that we should not, none of us should be happy with. And at this point, the bullet doesn't know your tribe, the bullet doesn't know your religion, the bullet doesn't know your political colors. And so it could be anybody at all falling victim at any point in time. And this is the entire country that suffers. My only prayer is that what it is that the president did in the Bawku conflict, which has led to the escalation because of his biases, should never recur and should never repeat itself.
Don't you think politicians should also stop repeating these statements? Isn't it also
Why are we
incensing
here?
the people?
Why are we here? How do we learn if we don't?
Because if they politicized it and it has led to the escalation, repeating same things will not bring...
Repeating it is politicization? You are not repeating. I'm only saying that this is what clearly has led to the escalation.
And the blame game.
No, which is blame game? You see, don't pretend. Don't try to make it look like an NPP NDC matter. It's an NDC matter. Hold on.
Hamza, you see, Hamza, please.
This is the last time you interrupt me. I think it's unfair. It's very disrespectful to the viewers.
Please,
don't do that. Don't do that. I sit down, listen to you rant.
That's fine. Let's go.
It's disrespectful to the viewers.
I'm saying that repeating what the president said in opposition, which you think was politicizing the matter, doing same now. Aren't you the
what
one?
Have I done same?
I mean, repeating same.
Aren't
you the one doing the blame game
It's repeating.
now?
I'm not blaming. I'm only telling you. Tell me the blame I've brought into this matter. I'm saying that let's learn from it. Why? You want to cover it up?
No.
Isn't it a fact?
Hold on.
No, we can't. Isn't it a fact that he told the people that he create a region for them?
Yes.
The youth are saying that you came to tell them that you acknowledge their chief as the legitimate chief. Isn't it a fact? Didn't he say it on video? It is on your portals that when NPP is in power, there is chaos. When NDC comes, there is
I'm asking that, can we not leave all this
Why
behind
should we leave it?
and allow the Otumfuo mediation process
why are we here?
Forward?
No, why are we here?
To find a solution.
We are
to the
here
issue.
because of those entrances. So we are only telling him that, please, let's learn from it, because maybe the next time it won't be Bawku. They will go and repeat it in another place. Why don't you want us to talk about that? Why don't you want to call a spade a spade?
Can
the
we be
president
progressive on the matter?
no,
Can we look forward
it is
instead of
progress.
looking back?
Progress is pointing out the person who did it wrong so that he doesn't do it again. Why? Why don't you want to talk about it?
Very well.
Then why do you keep allowing them to talk about Galamsey in the past? Why didn't you tell him that when he was ranting?
Opportunity to respond to that.
So let me speak, and then you can give you an opportunity to respond. I am saying that the president's posture is what has brought us to where we are, the escalated nature. And I'm not the one saying it. The Kusasi people themselves, they have said it. Call out the president. Call out his party.
So now that we are at the round table,
they don't do it. That's what I've already indicated that now that we are at Menchia, let's give peace a chance.
Very well.
And let's make sure that these same elements who are still in government do not go and meddle in it anymore. Because enough lives have been lost over the period. But never try to cover up what has brought us to this point. The escalated nature within the last 120 days is because of the carelessness of the president and his government.
Very well. Thank you, Dennis. Kosi?
Yes.
Bawku and Menchia.
Okay. I think as a nation, we have tolerated too much bad behavior, and we have allowed politics to, which basically is about how to get power. Let's define it so that politics is about how you influence to get power. That is all. And I think that we have overplayed that to the detriment of the nation. So in this Bawku issue, we ask, is it politics versus nation building? That's the way I want to look. And I also look at it as republic versus kingdom. And then we say tribalism versus nation building. we need to get to the stage where we are looking at one people, one nation, one destiny. We need to get there. And this is what we trust that political leadership will provide. Unfortunately, over the years, politicians have been more concerned about how to win power and how to retain that power rather than building a nation. So whenever one is not in power, they will say anything to please a particular tribe or a group of people in order that they can get the votes. And when they are out of power, they'll begin to speak to another group in order that they can get votes. Let's look at Ghana, 30-something million people. The Bawku crisis, if the date or what I get is right, predates the current republic. And it started sometime in 1957.
Yeah.
So if that issue has stayed with us all these years, why has it remained unresolved? And then when one party is not in power, they speak this way. When they come into power, they speak another way. Currently, we have asked the Otumfo to step in. This is why I talk about nation building versus a kingdom. Are we building a republic or we are building a kingdom? What are we doing? Because we are a republican state. We are not a kingdom. And that is why I shudder when I hear chiefs calling themselves kings in this country. And politicians are shy from addressing that issue. We are a republic. We are not a kingdom. And I think that journalists must also speak to that. We are not a kingdom. So there should be no chief calling himself a king in this country. We need to address that sincerely as a country and as a people. So we need to begin to move away from political responsibility and then diverting it into chieftaincies and issues like that. So again, why have political leadership, when they are not in power, speak in a certain way, and then when they get into power, they speak in another way? These issues could have been resolved clearly in law, in the courts of law, but we have failed to do that. Then, because possibly we have made promises to the others, when we come and say, oh, let's pass it on to some chief to resolve for us, and then we sit back.
But this has worked in previous times.
It has worked, but you see, that is not solution. Look, I won't make certain statement. I'll speak to you in camera. But you see, we need to divulge the issue. Let's look at building one nation, one people, and one destiny. Why are the cost overheads of running this country so high, and yet there's very little benefit to the people of this country? Because, again, we have sought to divide this country into tribes and ethnic groups. So we have continuously divided this country into regions, districts, constituencies, simply because politicians want power. Rather than looking at building a nation. Why do we need so many districts in this country? Why do we need so many parliamentarians? Who is it favoring? Is it favoring the people of this country, or is favoring individual political elites? These are sincere questions that we need to begin to deal with. And this is why I think that let us not shy away from dealing with those issues as they are. For me, the passing on the issue into the Asantehene is simply politicians wanting to shy away from making political decisions and the courts from dealing with the issues decisively. And once the courts deal with it, decide, we must enforce it. For me, these are the issues we should begin, because we are building a nation and a republic for that matter. We're not building a kingdom. So let us be clear on these issues. The cost overheads of building this country, where every time we are splitting the country into regions for the benefit of politicians, splitting the country into districts, must stop. And Ghanaians must begin to look at this issue sincerely, and let's do it. Other than that, this conflict will continue. This conflict will continue.
Thank you, Kosi. We have about 3 minutes to go. Unfortunately, we will not be able to deal with the Mahama case if we should go into it. So let me split the three amongst the three of you. 1 minute each on Bawku, and then we can wrap it up.
I think, you see, that is why sometimes it is important for us to listen before we speak. And around this table, my brother has demonstrated that when it comes to... Can I make my point?
Hamza, let's deal with the Bawku issue.
That is what I'm going to respond to.
Let's not make it a conversation between you
and Dennis. What I'm going to respond to, please. I said that it's important for us to listen before we speak. On this platform, he alleged that I referred to the CJ as an NPP woman. If he had listened like you did, he would have come to the realization that I made that statement on the basis that I told him that their actions seem to be suggestive, or as if the president is trying, or the NDC is trying to remove a senior member of the NPP from office. And that they should check it. Granted. It was a caution.
Granted.
Again,
30 seconds to go.
When you brought the issue of CJ, of the Bawku crisis. It is for good reason. I resisted the temptation to go political in it. We are in government. This is not the time for excuses. Certain utterances were made, yes. His Excellency President Mahama, I will not sit here and deny it. His Excellency President Mahama intimated that indeed looking at the landscape of the northern regions, it should be possible for us to carve out a region for the Bawku area. It was an engagement. It is not cast out in stone. These are intimations of a flag bearer. How connected is that to the conflict situation in the area? We've carved out a region for Northeast. We've carved out one for the Savannah area. These are political discussions that we're exposing.
For me.
You see, yeah, these are political discussions that we're having. So for me, I can understand. I will not sit here and attempt to go back to the utterances Nanado also made, or Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, in relation to the Bawku crisis. No. That is why I have adopted the middle ground, because the responsibility now is on us, not them. Yes, not, please, can I land? The responsibility now is on us, not them, when it comes to managing the situation. So I will resist the invitation to go on the partisan route, except to appeal once again to our people on the ground, the Mampusis and the Kusasis, that this issue can only be resolved if we listen to each other. We must resist the temptation to be moved by political commentary, largely intended to score political goals. We are at a stage where we need to end the crisis. And we'll do everything within our power as a government to confront it.
Time to resolve it.
If the government and its elements, like Council Hamza here, continue to behave the way he's behaving this morning, then time would always catch up with them like it has caught up with them.
Right.
He tells us, no, don't rush, you said 1 minute. He tells us that what has the utterances the president made in the past got to do with the conflict now? I'll show you. So the Kusasis have written to you and telling you that we are expressing deep disappointment. And they are accusing the president of using their support for political gain, criticizing the tendency of politicians to exploit the Bawku conflict.
This is what you read to us earlier?
Yeah, no. Yes, part of what I read to you earlier. Without delivering genuine solutions. And they conclude, we now realize that politicians have been using the Bawku conflict for their own selfish political advantage. They keep deceiving us with false promises of peace just to win our vote. You know why they are saying this? If you go and tell them that when you come, you give them a region because you think they should be separate. And now you come and sit here and say that it's not cast in stone. It's not cast in stone. You want to tell them that they should vote for you. That is why the NPP got 0. In polling stations where there are a lot of people, they go 0. Right. In fact, there are polling stations that we have agents who. Agents, we go 0. You know why? Because you told the people that when you come, you do certain things for them. 4 months later, you're on TV telling them that the promise you made to them is not cast in stone. They will fight.
Dennis, thank you.
And it is your fault that they are fighting.
You have to forgive me. You would have to forgive me. You have to forgive me. We need to wrap it up. We need to end. I am so sorry. Next week, we'll give you one more of it. But thank you, gentlemen. This has been exciting. Very, very informative, very educative as well. Thank you so much. This has been the news review segment on Breakfast Daily. Stay with us. There's a lot more coming your way on the show.